es director del proyecto OSU del Kew Botanical Garden del Reino Unido. Le damos la bienvenida.
Buenos días. Good morning, everybody. I am also going to tell you a story. My story this morning is going to be the story of Odontoglossum crispum. And if you're asking yourself why Odontoglossum crispum, crispum because it is extremely beautiful, but I think it actually encapsulates for us all of the different aspects of conservation and the problems that we have, and actually hopefully some of the solutions as well. So here we are. Crispum was first discovered, I don't know if I like the word discovered, but anyway, there was the first European to discover it was Hartwig in 1841-42, and then it was described by Lindley, and then if you go to Kew, if you go to the herbarium, you can actually find the type specimen of Kew with Stig Devilstrum's name on it somewhere, I'm sure. And it's there it is. There is a little note at the bottom here, which is telling us that actually crispum comes in two forms. It comes in a form where it is branched, and it comes in a form which is not branched. Now, what you can see on the right-hand side here is the branched form of crispum. Of course, the previous speaker starts showing my slides, doesn't he? Well, I expected this before I came along. But who was collecting it? This is the thing. It was collected by the hundreds of thousands by people like Albert Millikan. And here is Millikan on the right hand side here. And here is a pile of Odontoglossum crispum. And what I think we should notice really is that there are axes on the ground here. And the reason why there are axes on the ground is in order to obtain these orchids, they were chopping down the trees. And they say that for every orchid that was, 4 orchids that were collected, they chopped down 1 tree. So if you can think of hundreds of thousands of crispums being chopped down, being removed from the forest, then as you can imagine, this means a very large number of trees were chopped down at the same time to obtain them. And of course, they were imported into the UK and into Europe by a number of different collectors. And amongst them, there's this fellow here who is Amy van de Bogard. Anybody who's come across Dirk Bogarde, the actor, this is actually his grandfather, and a character he looks as well. It's a really sort of interesting photograph because allegedly it was taken about 1889 in Las Cruces in Colombia. But if you look closely, you can see there are some photographs of Paphiopedilums here. And Paphiopedilums do not occur in Colombia. Let's get this right. So it is obviously a posed photograph, and despite quite a lot of effort, really we haven't been able to find out very much more about it. But the family of Bogart know no more than that. They gave me permission to use that photograph for you this morning. Okay. The news gets worse really when it comes to environmental destruction, doesn't it? Because of course, not only are they chopping down the trees to obtain the orchids, but when they're transporting the orchids out of the forest and up the Rio Magdalena, of course they're being carried on the paddle steamers, and the paddle steamers are, if you notice, fueled by wood as well. So not only are we chopping down the trees to obtain the orchids, but we're actually chopping down more trees to take them out of the forest. Okay, so, question is, who is it that wants these thousands of orchids which are imported into the UK? As your previous speaker said, this was a time of orchid mania. And there are a number of collectors, they were a serious status symbol, and amongst them I just wanted to show one example here, and this is a man called Joseph Chamberlain, the father of Neville Chamberlain, if anybody knows their history of Britain in the Second World War. But he was a famous politician in the 19th century, and he had this enormous orchid collection at his home, which was called Highbury, and he had large numbers of Odontoglossum crispum. And what is really sort of quite nice is that he lived in Birmingham. He made his fortune in Birmingham, but Bogart, who we've just seen, had an orchid nursery in Birmingham, and he used to advertise thousands of Odontoglossum crispum for sale. So we think that Joseph Chamberlain must have bought orchids from Bogart. And again, if you look closely, of course, what you can see, he's got an orchid buttonhole. And Joseph Chamberlain used to wear a fresh orchid corsage in his buttonhole every time he went to Parliament. So they were sent down from Birmingham to London for him to wear these orchids in his buttonhole. Okie dokie. Now the question is, what were the orchids like when they were imported? This is a time when photography is in its early days, and we're really very fortunate at Kew in that we have a book which was produced by John Day, John Day's scrapbooks, and what John Day did was to illustrate Odontoglossum crispum and many other orchids. There are 50 volumes of his scrapbook, I discovered, and he was so enamoured by Odontoglossum crispum, although here you can see, of course, it's blunty eye at the moment, but he was so enamoured by this that he painted it 40 times. So he painted lots of different varieties of this. And so the pictures are really very pretty. You can see the pictures in books. But actually, what I also find interesting is that nobody seems to publish in the books the little notes that go along with the pictures. And this note here tells us, of course, that this Odontoglossum crispum, as we now call it, was collected near Tapachula in Colombia. Of course, as we go along, then we have another Odontoglossum crispum, and this is you're going to find is going to be the typical form that we find in the UK. Yes, so today, if you're looking at Odontoglossum crispum, then you're likely to see plants with lovely round flowers, not any spotting to be noted at all. So it was an interesting plant. We're a little suspicious, I have to say, that of course the artists, a little bit of artistic license. Yeah, were they really as round as that? But possibly so. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have a little talk about it. And of course, people paid ridiculous sums of money for these plants. This is a very famous variety called Apiatum, and it was somebody paid 160 guineas. We're talking sort of tens of thousands of pounds in today's money. And what you'll notice, of course, is that what they like are the sort of, the heavily marked varieties, rather than the lovely plain white varieties, which are sort of so popular today. Okay, so this is what you see in Colombia today. This photograph was taken at a show in Bogota a couple of years ago, and beautiful they are, but they're not what we see in Britain today, I promise you. Of course, back in the day, you start to think to yourself, well, did they import the branched varieties? The branched varieties are still in herbaria today. This is in the herbarium in Botanical Gardens in Medellín. It was collected in 1974 from the wild, so you can see that branch form exists, but also you can see, of course, that if you look at the Orchid Review back in the early 1900s, there were branch forms also available in the UK that we no longer see today. And what amuses me, of course, is that this plant was given a cultural commendation. It wasn't awarded a first-class certificate or anything like that. So they thought it was lovely and it was well grown, but hey ho, it's more we like ground flowers, not starry ones. And there you go. Okay, so look, we know, of course, don't we, that orchid seed is like dust. Yes, so it is tiny. This is one of my students. This is Tegan. Don't panic. This is not Odontoglossum crispum seed that she just blowing away into the atmosphere and hoping it will germinate. It's just some spare seed we have, but it makes the point. Yeah, orchid seed is tiny. Orchid seed is different. And you start to wonder, really, how the people in England at the time were able to grow it from seed, or were they able to grow it from seed? And the answer was, yes, they were. They were able to grow it from seed, but the compost they used were peat-based composts, or what you can see here is the root of the fern osmunda. Yeah, so they grew them on osmunda fibre. And what they discovered really was that they could sow the seed on the surface of the compost of an adult plant, but the seed of Odontoglossum would only germinate on the surface of compost in which an Odontoglossum was growing. Yeah, the seed of Cattleya would germinate only on the surface of the compost in which a Cattleya was growing. You couldn't grow Odontoglossum seed on the Cattleya compost, and you couldn't grow Cattleya seed on Odontoglossum compost. So, you know, we know something that they don't we? We know, of course, that the fungus must have been present in the imported plants at the time in order for the things to germinate. But they had no idea what was going on. They did, however, understand as early as the 1840s that orchids did actually have fungus growing in their roots. So they knew there was fungus present, but they didn't understand that you needed the fungus in order to germinate the seed. Until along came Noel Bernard in 1899, and Noel Bernard, of course, it's very well known to all of us, isn't it? He was the person who demonstrated quite clearly that you needed an appropriate fungus in order to germinate the seed. And what I love really is that, you know, this is Bernard, but there's a piece in the Orchid Review here in 1906, yeah, and there are 3 test tubes here, and the one test tube contains Odontoglossum seed without the fungus, and there's another one that contains Odontoglossum seed with the fungus, and the other one is a Phalaenopsis. We're just interested in the Odontoglossums today. And I was really sort of intrigued. I thought to myself, well, hey-ho, you know, what's the medium? You know, what is he growing it on? He's not growing it on oats medium that I used to germinate my dactyrizers in my laboratory, is he? And it turns out that he's growing it on salep, which is orchid tubers, and agar to make it set. So this was, you know, this really was quite a breakthrough, wasn't it, in terms of being able to propagate these orchids. But I say it's very nice that, you know, it's serendipitous, isn't it, that it is actually Odontoglossum that he is demonstrating, because Odontoglossums had the reputation as being actually very difficult to grow from seed using the other techniques. So here we go. Look, here we have a nice picture, you know, of Odontoglossum seed, not Odontoglossum crispum, but a hybrid, but you can see, you know, the fungal pelotons within the cells of a germinating seed here. Yes, that's really rather nice. Okie dokie. Well, of course, the commercial people of the day were really very interested in this. And in particular, there was a gentleman by the name of Joseph Charlesworth. And Charlesworth established a very famous orchid nursery. And actually, he was quite the man, because he did an awful lot of work himself in terms of microscopy and looking at orchid seed germination. And if you look here, you know, this is a greenhouse full of flasks of Odontoglossums. You're thinking, what? You know, this is sort of seedling heaven, isn't it? And I really, I don't know if anybody's going to help me here, but I'm desperate to know what his medium was. Because I'm telling you now, it's not salep, is it? He hasn't been grinding up millions of orchid tubers to produce is growth medium. So there's a little mystery to be solved still. And yeah, amongst many mysteries, I have to say. But look, here's his seedling house. He's producing, you know, zillions of blooming things again, isn't he? It's it really is quite a major operation, and something that we don't see today. The problem that we have in the UK, anyway, is it is very rare that you see Odontoglossum crispum at orchid shows. It is not grown anymore. It has a reputation as being extremely difficult to grow under the conditions that we have in the UK. Well, sort of, as it turns out, there are actually catalogues from Charlesworth's from the past. Now, I don't know if you can read it, but here we are. This is a catalogue from 1907, and here we have a catalogue from 1933-34. And of course, what you're doing is you're looking in there to see what you can find. And what you find in there, of course, is that Joseph Charlesworth is producing his premier type of Odontoglossum crispum. And you can see, you know, he's got it's these round flowers that he's producing, isn't it? And you can see, of course, you know, this lovely thing, Odontoglossum crispum, premier type avalanche FCC. And if you look at the catalogue for 1933, he tells you that they first flowered them in 1917. Which, of course, again, was he using the techniques of Bernard, or was it a little bit before that? You know, because they take a few years to grow, don't they? So I go down to McBean's Orchids, because McBean's Orchids have taken over Charlesworth's collection. And I find, much to my amazement, that the very plant Odontoglossum crispum, premier type, avalanche, FCC, still exists. This is Jim Durrant, yeah, and he is holding in his hands a plant of that very orchid. If you want to buy it, we're talking sort of several £1,000s, I'm sorry. But these are, you know, what you call heritage plants now. So again, you know, we're talking ridiculous money, you might argue, for orchids. But I just could not believe that here he is in his Odontoglossum house, and this orchid is still actually in existence. I'm not going to buy it. I don't want to kill it. I don't know how they dare grow it. It's you know, it's really quite amazing. Also, I have to say that if you look in the catalogue for 1907, they mention Odontoglossum crispum, Xanthotes variety Snow Queen. Yeah? And as it turns out, there is a photograph of this particular orchid. And they wanted, back in 1907, price on request. And then there's a little note in the margin for 150 guineas. Yes, so somebody being paid an awful lot of money for that. And of course, look, you know, here we have another premier type here, and you can see again these round flowers with the frilly edges. So there is a resource out there, as our previous speaker said. There are all these resources out there that you need to find in order to get the information. Okay, well. You know, along came Lewis Knudsen and spoiled everything, didn't he? Yeah, because he demonstrated that you didn't need the fungus at all in order to grow these things from seed. We're told that the plants that he grew, yeah, at Charlesworth were actually much more vigorous than the plants which are grown asymbiotically. And the interesting thing is, we still have the same argument today about a lot of orchids. They say, you know, in the UK, Dactylorizas, they still say they are more vigorous if they're grown with the fungus than if they're grown without the fungus. So it's, you know, history repeats itself. But I say Knudsen, really, he came along and changed everything. Well, of course, some of you would know by now, introduction. I've been involved since 2007 with OSU, Orchid Seed Science and Sustainable Use. And what I'm interested in doing really, apart from giving talks, what I'm interested in doing is teaching younger people, older people as well, up to point, but younger people in particular, how to grow orchids from seed and how to store the seed for the long term. So this is a photograph taken at the Botanical Gardens in Bogota, a workshop that I gave a couple of years ago. It was a Darwin initiative project, and there are people in this room who are part of that project. As part of that, I actually run a project in a local school, King Charles I School in Kidderminster, in the middle of the country, where I teach youngsters how to grow orchids from seed. And also I run a citizen science project, which means that I have my group, I call them my senior citizen scientists, because they're sort of my age. We're all getting a little older, so they're my senior citizen scientists. And of course, what I'm doing with them is that I am, teaching them how to grow orchids from seed, but I'm also teaching them how to store the orchid seed and also how to monitor germination over a period of time. So what they're doing here, of course, is they're doing tetrazolium testing. I'm sorry, these are not Odontoglossums, but this is such a nice photograph from John Kendall at Kew that you can see. You can stain the seeds, and if you stain the seeds with tetrazolium, then seeds which are viable will stain red, and seeds that are not viable will not stain red. And, here is a little test tube which sort of gives you the idea of what you can see. Because obviously what we're interested in is how long you can conserve the seed, yes, in an orchid seed bank. Now, this is what we do, and I have to say this is, sort of really important to everybody, that you understand that the orchid seed needs to be dried before it is stored over the long term, and then it can be refrigerated to extend its lifespan further. But the key to storing orchid seed is, thank you, here the Steve, it's on the little man, it's waved his flag at me. The key to storing orchid seed is that the seed has to be dry rather than moist. If the seed is moist, then you're not going to be able to store it. You cannot store immature seed, we think, for long periods of time. Okay, so these orchids still exist, I have to say, in the UK, and what you can see in front of you is again Odontoglossum crispum, as you see it in the UK. This is at the Eric Young Orchid Foundation. This is Mariano, who works at the Eric Young Orchid Foundation. I said to Mariano, we don't see this in cultivation anymore. Would you set seed on the plant for me? And he said, yes, Phil, I will. And there you are, look. These are okay. Oh, that's a seed capsule. Get excited. This means more plants are going to come. And here we are. Look, this is the sort of thing that we've got. We've got some seedlings here, and this again is typical of the sort of Odontoglossum crispum that we see today. What I'm trying to do is to get crispum from different sources, because the thing that we have in the UK now is, well, that isn't really Odontoglossum crispum. And I'm thinking, there's a hybrid, there are all the species in there. Well, okay, possible it's not. But really, it would make a really interesting project if we could actually set something up to test. So I have a friend from Equatorial Plants, Dick Warren, who has sent me some seedlings from a different source. These are allegedly typical Odontoglossum crispum. Whether they are or not, I don't know. It's going to be a while before they flower, isn't it? But there you go. Of course, the final thing is, do these plants still exist in the wild? And you can see, well, a nice photograph of mine. Very good. He's smiling. This of course, is Stig. This is Stig Dahlstrom. Stig has been going around in your beautiful country, and he has actually found, of course, that Odontoglossum still actually exists in nature. And what I would like to do, of course, is to compare the Odontoglossum crispum that you still see growing in the wild with what it is that we have in cultivation. Are those in cultivation with the lovely round flowers and the thick petals? Are they tetraploids? Are they triploids? I don't know. This is another stage in our investigation. But I'm intrigued, of course, that there are spotty ones, and I'm thinking, well, is that truly crispum? Well, Stig's going to tell you, isn't he? Later on, he's going to tell you what he thinks is what is happening. So here we are. Yeah, we still love Odontoglossum crispum, don't we? It is the most beautiful orchid. Here it is on a stamp. Yeah, back in 1949. And of course, here we are. This is a hybrid, but the hybrids are still produced by the Young Orchid Foundation. So my message is very clear. We need to be doing something about this. My students are raising seedlings as I speak, and hopefully we will see more of it grown in the UK. But I would actually like to find out more about its genetics, to tell the truth. And so I'm hoping there are people here in the audience who are going to say, Phil, you just talk rubbish, I don't know. But, I can help you. There are things that I know that you don't. So I really, I'm very, very happy that I've been allowed to give this presentation this morning because I want to learn more about it. Imagine this thing is just going 1 minute and I've finished. There you go. So thank you very much for your attention.